17 and on through there. That led to years of activism in my community. I eventually moved from Minneapolis to Portland. I started going into high schools doing a program called Opt Out. That's where we wanted to let young people know, primarily youth of color, youth from low-income families, we wanted to let them know that they had the right to opt out of military recruiters having access to their private information, because the military recruiters would target youth of color, target low-income students, and they would be like, look, you're probably not going to make it to college with this GPA. If you join the military, at least you can get a free education. It was through that work, letting people know that they could opt out of that process, that I was invited to go to Rwanda in 2004. Do you all know about the Rwandan genocide? This was 10 years after the genocide. There was a conference there that was organized and led by youth in the Great Lakes region in Central Africa. A group called the African Youth Initiative Network. There were about 60 people there from all these countries, and part of me being invited to go was that I had to commit to 2 years of follow-up work when I got back home. I didn't know what I was going to do when I got there. We'll talk more about that. But that's kind of the beginning of a process that got me to where I was touring, going throughout the continent of Africa, doing hip-hop music, and meeting young, passionate activists like myself who are also hip-hop artists as part of a project called the African Hip-Hop Caravan, and that's a lot of what I want to talk to you about today. Before we get into it, even though we're kind of already into it, one of the most important things I feel we need to do when we're talking about hip-hop culture, whether we're talking about breakdancing, DJing, entrepreneurship, style, slang, any one of the elements, MCing, graffiti, when we talk about hip-hop culture, we want to be able to contextualize it. Y'all know what I mean when I say contextualize it? Okay. Put it in the proper framework, right? So if I'm talking about Black history in a high school on an afternoon on a weekday, it might be in the context of Black History Month that I'm doing that, right? You dig? So when I look at hip-hop, I want to look at it with some critical thinking, and I want to contextualize it. Y'all know who Dr. Frances Cress Welsing was? Rest in power, she just passed away. She was a Black psychologist. She did a lot of work to deconstruct white supremacist society. She said, in society, there are 9 areas of people's activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, sex, religion, and war. She said that all the activity we participate in between the time we're born and the time we die can basically be contextualized by one of those categories. Can we take a second and read about the African Hip Hop Caravan? Do any guys have any questions so far? Yes.
So, how do you actually become a true activist?
Is there anybody in this room that considers themselves a true activist? I see some of the elders, some of the educators, the adults, right? But what about some of you guys that aren't teachers, that don't work here? Is there anybody that considers themselves an activist?
And when you say activist, you mean like helping your community become something that the statistics that you want you to be?
That can be, yeah, if that's part of how, is that how you engage in your activism?
Well, I know like some of my peers, like we grew up in the struggle, and people are expecting to be like gamblers or something, but most people trying to get out of college at the same time. So, talk about stuff like that.
Word. Yeah, for me, it was facing what I felt I needed to face on the street as a high school student. At the time, I didn't call myself an activist. I don't even think I knew what the word activist meant. At the time, I was just doing what was right to me, and I was doing it with other people. I had a community. I had a group of friends. My peers and myself, we were doing what we felt we needed to do. We weren't going to stand for that. It was only later that I began to understand that what I was doing was part of a lineage of struggle. You see, when I think about the work that I do right now, and I think about my role and my responsibility, I'm thinking about the people who inspired me historically. You know, we have icons in the struggle. Give me a name of somebody you might look up to that you've heard about that's done powerful historical work. Malcolm X. Who else? Okay, well, let's just go with, for the sake of time, moving forward. Malcolm X. All right? So when I think about Malcolm X, when I think about Fred Hampton, think about Sojourner Truth, I think about Harriet Tubman. I'm thinking about people who gave their lives for the well-being of people all over the world, right? For people in this country. When I think about myself and I understand the powerful work that they did made it possible for me to step into my consciousness, then I have a role to play myself. You see? And so that's the context in which I'm active. Because I understand that all the work that they did cannot be for nothing. If we're going to continue to fight to make our lives better and the lives of the people we love better and the people that come after us, then we're going to take that inspiration and try to do something with it in our day-to-day life. So the African Hip Hop Caravan is an annual project organized by various hip hop collectives to allow thousands of young people to experience hip hop culture at its finest. It's based on a cohesive network of African hip hop collectives. That means groups of people in every city that host the caravan, anywhere from 5 to 6 to 20 to 30 people, young people like yourselves, forming a collective and utilizing hip hop, utilizing activism in our community. The participating collectives, which include Sounds of the South out of Cape Town, South Africa, Uhuru Network out of Zimbabwe, Okwamta out of Arusha, Tanzania, Asrafo out of Lome, Togo, Wasani Mtani out of Nairobi, Kenya, are dedicated to hip-hop's original vision as the voice of the oppressed and understand it as an acronym meaning her infinite power helping oppress people. Have you guys ever heard that breakdown of the term hip-hop before? That came from KRS-One in the Temple of Hip-Hop. Back to the trip to Rwanda. When I was there, I didn't know what my 2 years of follow-up work was going to be. Some of the activists stepped to me, they said, Mike, we went to community centers all over the city. At the time, Rwanda had the highest per capita populace of young people under 35 years old because so many of their parents had been killed in the genocide. So the community centers and the schools were full of like hundreds of young people, and they were hungry to learn. They were learning how to use computers on cardboard replicas of computers. They would take a box, they would make a monitor. They take a lid of a box, they make a keyboard. They had all the characters, you can't really see it on the keyboard. They had a hard drive, they had everything that they needed to learn how to use computers. They would take pieces of paper and put the software prompts that you would see in Microsoft Word or Office. And they would learn the programs, basically not even having the real software and hardware. And they came to me and they said, Mike, you live in the West, you have access to resources we don't have. We want to build a computer center. You need to help us. So my work was then cut out for me. When I couldn't figure out what my 2 years of follow-up work was going to be, got back to the States and I was like, okay, I got to figure out how to get them a computer center. How am I going to do it? I decided I needed to utilize hip-hop because if I was going to do it, I had to do it in a way that I would be excited and passionate about, that I could get up every day and put some work in for it. So the next thing I did, I was like, how am I going to use hip-hop to get them computers? I reached out to Dead Press. We collaborated. They came to Portland. This is, I don't know, I see you guys use this for the promotional material. So you know this is a song we did together. I just got off a tour with them. We've been building a relationship for close to a decade. They helped play a show where we raised enough money to ship the computers. And then they set up a computer center in Burundi. Some of those same people I met in Rwanda. Burundi is a neighboring country of Rwanda. We just got $45,000 at the top of 2015 to keep the computer center open for 3 more years. So it's running. The project is moving forward. And that was an example My first example of utilizing my activism, something I love, such as hip hop, reaching out to people in my community. These guys, Dead Prez, were a lot bigger than me. They had an audience all over the world. And then accomplishing something across borders, internationally. It was that got me invited to play the crowd at Shoko in 2012. You guys with me? We just showed the video. You see, the motto at Shoko is you play a free show in the hood for the kids. It was turned. Y'all said lit. I can't keep up with the new language. I don't know what it'll be next week. But evidently, cats were feeling it. I was feeling it. I was tired as hell, man. We played Friday. This was Sunday. I had been on the parking lot as people showed up one by one, 2 by 2, 3 by 3, until there was over 1,000 people there. I've been on that parking lot since 1 in the afternoon. It was 7 at night. You can see the mist in the air. It was hot. It was humid. This is Bashupi. He's one of the biggest artists in Zimbabwe. They were very strategic at the Shoko Music Fest because they knew not everyone would know who I was, so they strategically put me together with somebody, and that's part of why the crowd felt it the way they did. After the Shoko Music Festival, I was tired. I was sitting down. I was feeling very high because the second time I've been to Africa, this is the first time I played a show. Played 2 shows in the city of Harare. Never been in Zimbabwe before. And I'm feeling electricity moving through my body because of what I've just accomplished. And there are 2 people sitting next to me and they're talking. And I overhear them talking. They're talking about playing in different cities with different hip hop artists across the continent, all the way from Cape Town to Cairo. From the bottom of the continent of Africa all the way up to the top. And I'm like, man, you guys ever hear somebody talking and you don't know them, but you know that what they're talking about is interesting, so you get more and more nosy? That's what I'm like. You know the cartoons where you see the animal, like the cat floating on the fumes of the food towards the pizza or whatever? That's what I was doing. I was like, my feet were probably off the ground. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? And they're like, yo, we're talking about the African hip hop caravan. I'm like, what? How can I be down? What is that? They told me about what it was. They said we spend a week in each city. Each city has a collective of African artists and activists that organize a week. They host the traveling caravan, and we move from city to city a week at a time. I said, I need to be part of that. They said, well, here's what you got to do. You got to go back home. Again, my African comrades are giving me homework. They said, you need to go back home. You need to get Mumia Abu Jamal to endorse it. I was like, I think I can do that. He said, you need to get Dead Prez to endorse it. I said, I think I can do that. He said, you need to get the coup. They had a list of things for me to do. And I came home and I did it. And you guys know who Mumia Abu Jamal is? He's an activist that's known the world over. He's a Black Panther who was also a journalist who was targeted by the Philadelphia Police Department. They said he murdered a cop. He's maintained his innocence. People have come forth and supported his innocence. He was on death row for years. People fought for him, got him off of death row, but he's never going to get out of prison. He's written a lot of books from behind bars, and he's done radio shows called Live from Death Row. Very powerful thinker, very powerful revolutionary thinker. So we got an endorsement from him, and then 2013, I'm on my first African hip-hop caravan. I fly something like 24 hours. We land in Cape Town, South Africa. It's dark. We get up at 6 in the morning, and this is the first thing I see. That's Table Mountain. Anybody here ever been to South Africa? Okay. You guys know, when I went to, every time I go to Africa, there's like a new thing for people to be scared about. So the first time I went, I think, or not the first time, the second time I went, what was it? What was it? In 2012 or 2013, what was the big thing everyone was scared of? I think that was 2014. Anyway, to make a long story short, you know, yeah, it's 2014. Everybody's like, you're going to Africa, you're going to get Ebola. I'm like, well, actually, the places I'm going to be are just as far from where Ebola is happening as we are right here, because it's a giant continent. So we went in 2014. We did it again this year. And now I just want to share some pictures and move through this, and then we're going to open it up a little bit more. This year, the first place we went was Tanzania, because last year Tanzania was the last place we went. Tanzania, outside of Arusha, is a place called the UAACC, United African Alliance Community Center, that was started by Black Panthers who had to leave the United States in political exile in 1970 because they were in fear for their life from the police and the government. They went there to Tanzania after spending time in Algeria and North Africa, and they built this community center, and it's this beautiful place in the foothills of Mount Meru, about 45 miles from Kilimanjaro, and they have beautiful buildings set up. They have a garden. When Geronimo Jagaga, the Black Panther who was on death row and in solitary confinement for a long time, was found innocent and got out of prison, the first place he went was to this community center, and he took some of the government settlement and he built a well there. So these Black Panthers have maintained this place. They've educated thousands of orphans, and they have a recording studio, and it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. This is a burner. Y'all know what a burner is? It's a graffiti mural that goes from the top of the wall to the bottom, side to side. This brother, Cool Core, Zulu Nation elder for the United States, who lives in Belgium, came and participated in the African Hip Hop Caravan in 2015, and he painted one of the buildings at the center. The Black Panthers that I told you about who had to leave in 1970, Mama C and Brother Pete O'Neill. They fled this country. This is a picture of them in the 70s when they were part of the Black Panthers Party for Self-Defense. Black people were getting killed by police just like they are today. Day to day, week to week. Black Panthers armed themselves. They had chapters across the country. They were Party for Self-Defense. That's why they had the guns. They said the seeds embody in the spirit and endeavor of revolutionary love will ensure the ever-sprouting determination for black liberation and freedom. Some people will say that this is terrorism. We know otherwise. These are two of the most incredible, loving, generous people I've ever met. This is them today. Mama C came last year. Brother Pete is surrounded. They have an orphanage. They have a school. If you see this brother, this is his house. What you can't see is there's a concrete bench. He's a master concrete mason. They built that place. His back is hurt. Spends a lot of time in bed. He's surrounded by children at all hours. Mama C will be back in March. We did Cleveland High School last year. Brother Pete can never leave. He'll never get his passport. He'll never get a visa. But they've lifted charges on Mama C, so she comes to the United States every year. So hopefully in March, I'll be able to let Mr. Selby know, and there'll be an event in Portland, and you guys can come attend. She's a dope MC. She's one of the main supporters of the hip-hop scene in Tanzania. She's an OG. This is the Black Panther, the original logo. It's on one of the vans that they use at the community center. And so this community center is outside of Arusha, Tanzania, which has one of the strongest scenes. This is myself. You guys know Baki? Baki came with me this year. Baki lives in Portland. Baki is 17 years old. Right there. Because it was evident after participating in Caravan for 3 years in a row that the project isn't going to grow if it's just my old butt going all the time. And I had to bring somebody with me so we can pass this on. So we're organizing. We're trying to continue the Caravan and incorporate young artists. I saw Baki flowing at the Boys and Girls Club for the Youth Summit last year, and he was tight. And I said, man, you dope. And at that time, I started thinking about he would be a good candidate for the Caravan. He became part of the What You Want to Do crew, part of the Spit Right and the Youth Poet Laureate contest, and I watched him grow as an artist. And when the time came, I was like, come on, let's go on the caravan. So he joined me this year. That's him and Mama C.
Who is his dad?
She's if you ever around this woman, she's got a light about her, but all her clothes and jewelry, she's pretty fly. Not to mention, she's like more adventurous than like any Hollywood hero, and she's a real person. This is the recording studio at the center. We recorded jams. I'll play you guys some music hopefully before we bounce. One of the dopest things about the caravan is super fresh. For me, is that I travel with artists from all over the continent, and a select few of us get to move from city to city. You know what the funnest thing for me is? Listening to them discover words that they have in common in each of their mother tongues. So we'll have one song, and it'll have 4 or 5 different languages on it, because we're rapping with MCs that are speaking in Swahili, Shona, Ndebele, Xhosa. You'll hear some of that. This is some of us in the studio getting busy. Again, Arusha, Tanzania has a dope hip-hop scene. There's a lot of graffiti. This is the venue we rocked before. The day before we played, we had to go visit the venue. So this is concrete structure. And one of the funnest things to see is the beginning, when there's not a lot of people, onward to the end of the event when there's like hundreds of people. This is one of the strongest activists I've ever met, Brother Nele from South Africa. Again, Mama C, some of the young local people. At the caravan, we always have concerts, but we also have symposiums where we engage the people in workshops and talk about what they let us know about what they're doing in their community. We have exchange of ideas. And this is the crowd later on that night. It was, again, crowds in Africa are very dope. There's not a lot of people looking at their phones. People are engaged. People listen to what you say, and they come and they engage you. If you say something on stage, chances are people are going to come up to you after the show and be like, dude, that thing you said, you know. And so there's a different level of accountability. You're not just an entertainer getting up there and talking about nothing. You have to be connecting with people. One of the local cats earlier on, I want to take a break because I've been talking a lot. Do you guys have thoughts or questions about the caravan you might want to share? You still awake? You want to see more? Yes.
Hey, did Baki go to Jeff?
Baki went to Jeff, and he's at, what's the one over by Lloyd Center right now?
Benson.
He's at Benson now. Just some more graffiti from around Arusha. So right here, you got all the local cats, well, a handful of the local cats from Tanzania. And this is my brother Costa, who I've done the caravan with. He's one of the best MCs I've ever met. We do it every year. I've been traveling with him across the continent since 2013. One of the younger brothers, I forget this brother's name. I just thought it was a dope shot. This is the Watangwa recording studio. So they have behind him is a door to a recording studio where a lot of MCs get down and record. So what I'm trying to do right now, the next aspect of the project for me is to create a network in the United States for hip-hop cultural exchange between people here and people on the caravan. So even though we've been able to go over there and tour, a lot of them haven't been able to come over here. A lot of what we see about Africa on TV and in social media, all we see is babies with distended bellies and flies on their face, and we see terrorist attacks and war and famine and poverty. But when you go there, as somebody that's not from there, you get to see, depending on where you're at, things that are remarkably different, that have nothing to do with what you've seen. One of the most important things for us to be able to do, if we're fortunate enough to have the opportunity to do so, is to see with our own eyes and to meet through our own organic exchange people and places and form our own opinions and be informed by the people who actually live in those places and not be informed by a media that's controlled by interests that want to keep us in the dark. This tree is a place where people go to perform ritual. How big do you think the roots are? They're deep. Check me out. Crazy, right? I'm a nature freak. So every time I'm on the continent, I make sure we get out and we do stuff in the wild. This is just some of the stuff around the center. One of the things I love when I'm in Tanzania and Kenya and that central east part of Africa is how white the clouds are. I didn't see no chemtrails when I was over there. You know, some people are like, oh, that's conspiracy, whatever. I don't see them when I'm there, and I love it.
See what?
You know, okay, if you were to go outside on most days of the week around here, there would be lines of what appear to be mist from planes crisscrossing the sky. So there's a lot of theories. People argue and fight each other about what that is. But they're not everywhere. They're in certain places. So I'll look it up and you can form your own opinion. But they're called chemtrails. This is, again, just the creek by the center. This is Mount Meru. You can't really put a mountain by me and have me not want to go up to the top of it. So I took a picture of it. I still haven't made it to the top. This is just the lake at the national park. Baki and I took one of the verses that I was paid to do here, and we went on a little safari. And after Arusha, Tanzania, our next stop was Nairobi, Kenya. So Nairobi is a big city, very metropolitan, cosmopolitan. There's a huge art scene there. So the caravan has visual aspects as well as audio aspects, people rocking the crowd. So my man Zuma painted this picture. It's the Kenyan flag reinterpreted as lips. I thought it was dope, so it made it into the PowerPoint. It's dope, right? Yeah. This is Baki rocking a house party. Weird mansion. There are actually more white people there. We felt like we were in Portland. It was like a rich. Most of the parents of the kids at this party all work for different diplomatic organizations. Nairobi is a huge city. It's a center of commerce. I want people to see the city in the metropolitan areas, right? When people think of Africa, they don't think about stuff like this, right? So this is the band we practice with. These young cats had a recording studio and a practice space at the top of one of those buildings. We would have to haul all the equipment up the stairs. We played Nairobi with them. Again, a couple more shots of the city. This could be anywhere in the United States or somewhere else in the world. And this is, again, some more visual art from Nairobi. The artist did this picture. He called it...
That is icy.
Yeah, right? He called it White Man's World. This brother was in the process of painting 100 pictures inspired by hip-hop. And this one was inspired by Tupac's song, White Man's World, because he said people can name like 5 white historical figures, but how many people can name 5 black historical figures? This is Katabengi South. This is one of the slums outside where K-pop, the band we played with in Nairobi, is from. And this is my man, Imor. Imor and his group of people are from a ghetto where there's something like 80% unemployment, there's crime, there's poverty, there's drugs, there's violence, there's all those things that happen when people don't have access to the basic necessities. So they built a library on the back of a school bus. This cat is bad. I'm going to try to send you the video that he did with their band so you guys can check out more of their music. And this is the mural they did in Nairobi last year when we were playing. As we were rocking the stage, the graffiti artists did this burner, African hip-hop caravan, while we were playing. And good night, Nairobi. Beautiful city. Moving on. Last stop of the caravan. Oh, no, we went to Harare, Zimbabwe. So, guys, remember when I told you I was tired and I was sitting down in 2012 and I overheard these guys talking? This brother right here, Biko, was one of the guys I overheard talking. And we've been comrades ever since. He organizes it for the collective in Harare. So that's this past year, 2015. We got to Harare, it was on. First night we get there, we have to go to a show. Hundreds of artists, basically. Shows there typically will go from late in the afternoon till real late. And that's in Chi-Town outside of Harare. And this is Sister Alicia B. from Denver. She came on the caravan this year too. Brothers and sister at the recording studio, Hustle for More Records in Chi-Town. So I'll say a little bit about this. This is yeah. So this is the second. We went on a safari in Arusha, and we saw water buffaloes, giraffes, and everything. It was cool. A lot of local people in Africa don't go on safaris because they can't afford it. It's something that's been designed to cater to the tourist economy. So let's say like Rwanda is famous for gorillas, right? So when I was there, I wanted to see gorillas. You know how much it was going to cost me to go see gorillas? $3,000 for a day. So you have to find local people that are willing to do it, and it's tough because a lot of local people have been, there's a lot of stereotypes about black people wherever we are, whether we're in Africa, okay, or somewhere else in the diaspora. One of the stereotypes about black people is that we don't like the outdoors, okay, that we're just an urban people. But we have to, if we want to deconstruct that myth, we need to understand why that is. So we need to look at a lot of the historic things that have happened in local economies that have forced people to leave the countryside and wind up in the city to survive. Some of those same things have made it impossible. You know what gentrification is, right? Okay, people getting displaced and priced out of their areas. When I was in Tanzania, people were selling their property to buy cars so that they could participate in the transit economy in the city. But the people that were buying their property were rich people from Europe. Those people will never in their lifetime be able to buy their property back because the property value shot up so much. That's happening across the continent of Africa. And just so happens to coincide with the U.S. through the guise of AFRICOM saying they're there to prevent terrorism, building over 100 military bases all across the continent. So we can see where this is headed. Anyway, when we were in Zimbabwe, my homeboy Dizzy Don, he's a local MC, he said we got to go do some, I'm not going to say the word, he said well, you got to go do some African-ish. I didn't have the heart to be like, we already went on safari. So he took us to the park, the Lion Cheetah Park. Now, the Lion Cheetah Park, there's 8 of us in a minivan. It's about 100 degrees outside. You got to roll up the windows because the lions, if you got the window open, they might get you. So we're in the van burning up, we're driving, and all of a sudden, boom, the engine blows up. We're like, we just laugh. We're like, damn, you can't write this. So this is me in the van as we're waiting to be rescued with the windows up, hot as hell, and that's one of the lions, like literally outside the van. Baddest man I ever seen in my life. He's got a stick.
He's a pimp.
Comes out, him and his boy just kind of walk through the lions. They have their sticks. When the lions flex, they just kind of distract the lion with the stick. They explained it like this: lions are cats. If you create something for them to focus on, they'll focus on that. They're predators. They rely on surprise. So when you're walking, if you have your back to them, you're supposed to look and make eye contact with them so that they know that you know that they're there. Anyway, they had a relationship with the cats. They came, they got another vehicle. They put it up right next to the van. They opened the door, and we all very quickly got in the other thing. And then had to figure out how to get back to Harare. This is, do you guys want to see Baki rocking? It's kind of dark. So like, this is late night in Zimbabwe, right? And let me make sure the video actually is going to work on this. So we wind up in this bar, and let me tell you, we're in the rough part of town. We're in a part of town where, unfortunately, a lot of women aren't even allowed to go out after night because people drink and it's dangerous, and a lot of families are like, no, we're not letting our girls go out. So we're in this bar, and you've seen some of these movies with where there's like chicken wire in front of the bar, in front of the stage, because people will throw stuff, and the artists don't want to get hit with beer bottles and so forth. I don't know if you can tell, but like there's a net in front of the stage, and Baki got up to rock, but it's not working. You can hear the music, but it's not, the picture ain't moving. All right, you guys. I apologize. Anyway, he killed it that night is what I'm getting at. Everyone loved it. This is Johannesburg, another big cosmopolitan city. This is in a lot of the comrades from the caravan outside of Soweto. That's where Nelson Mandela actually spent a lot of his time in his younger years. These are all comrades from Sounds of the South Collective in South Africa. We were in a classroom at the school. You can see the corner of the school behind us. About 50 kids in the classroom. And the teacher said, raise your hand if you speak Xhosa. And about 5 or 6 kids raised their hand. He said, raise your hand if you speak Shona. Raise your hand if you speak Ndebele. Raise your hand if you speak Zulu. You know there are 14 official languages in South Africa? That's just one country of almost 60 countries in the continent. Those are just the languages that are recognized. To any one of us, maybe not all of us, because maybe some of us are from Africa and we're familiar with the diversity of cultural heritage and ethnicity that there is in every country. But to me, to my eyes, it just looked like a room full of black kids. Within that room full of black kids, there are like 5 or 6 different ethnicities, right? So that's just something to think about when we think about identity. Something else to think about when I was in Rwanda, when I had to learn about the genocide before I went, right? And they said that the genocide was Hutus versus Tutsis. They said Tutsis were tall, light-skinned people with fine features, and Hutus were short, dark-skinned people with broad features, right? Well, you know what I learned was that there were 18 different ethnic groups before the colonials forced everybody to identify as two. And those 18 different ethnic groups actually lived in harmony and intermarried historically before the Belgians and the French and the German came and imposed those identities on each other. So when I got there, I actually could not tell who was Tutsi and who was Hutu unless people told me themselves. When the genocide happened and they went door to door and 1 million people got murdered, do you know how they found out what your ethnic lineage was if they didn't know you personally? Your ID card. So I want you to think about that when you check a box. White, black, Asian, Latino, other. What is the purpose of the classification, really? Anyway, moving on. This is Cape Town now, halfway across the country, and this was the last place we went, and I would love to share some music with you guys. Do we have any thoughts or comments? Yes, sir.
Is there anything that you would say that you've seen over in Africa that you would see, that you wish you could see in the U.S.?
There's what happens to me, for me, and other comrades that I've traveled with from the States who go there, some for their first time, is something that I wish was more available for a lot of us to experience. It's a deep thing, it's complex. I was thinking this morning, something that happens to me when I travel the continent is I see people who I can tell are wearing the same cultural, spiritual, intellectual experience that I'm wearing. But it's just happened in different geography. They have different names, they might speak different languages. When I'm in South Africa, one of the things that trips me out, specifically in Cape Town, is I look at those mountains, I look at the arid, dry landscape, I look at the beautiful ocean, and it looks a lot like the American West to me. It looks like Arizona, it looks like California, it looks like New Mexico. And when I'm visiting the people in the townships are ethnic, indigenous, South African, black people, right? And I'm like, the township is a shanty town. These people are building their houses without government permission on land because they need a place to live. And they're going to fight the government if they need to keep a place to live. But the government doesn't even want to give them electricity and running water. And the white minority rules to this day, still. And I'm like, how the hell did the people that actually come from this land end up in these shanty towns without running water and electricity. You see the electricity here? They organized. They put that up independent of the government. They did it themselves. I'm thinking about the wealth, the diamonds, the gold, the oil, the zinc, the magnesium, the platinum. I'm like, why are these people broke? When I'm on the west side of this country, I'm looking at the same landscape, and I'm seeing my brothers and sisters that are indigenous on reservations, and I'm thinking the same thing. The same companies that extract the resources from these people's lands are the same ones that operate in this hemisphere and have done the same thing historically. So when I travel and I see the pain and I see the hope and the passion in my people, I relate to it. I wish that everybody could have that experience, because it's something that builds a sense of solidarity and understanding that's beyond what they tell me about terrorists, whatever garbage. So yeah, I know that was a long-winded way to answer that question. This is the mosque behind the homie's house where we were recording music. I just thought it was a great picture. Cape Town is very well organized. The concerts they do there are attended by a lot of young people. This is during the day. Later that night, it was like 1,000 people in the park. These are some of the comrades. Everybody here is dope. We got my man. I'm embarrassed. I can't remember his name right now. This is Milia Mills. This is Zoe. I forgot sister's name too. This is my man Zenzolo. Zenzolo just won King of the Cape. So like he won a national, one of the best MCs in South Africa competition in 2015. Sister Alicia B came from Denver this year. She's a good DJ. She's got a movement called Girl Illa Movement. Basically advocating women's involvement in hip hop. This is my man Kusta. This is a garage. We walked into this place, man. There were like little children this big, better than most grown MCs. Something to remember is that people that have never lost touch with their indigenous heritage oftentimes have a ritualistic relationship to cultural expression. So, there's often dances and songs and music associated with rites of passage as people grow from childhood into adulthood. I say that because singing and dancing and rocking and expressing yourself is not something foreign to a lot of the comrades on the caravan. So what you have is you have people that are basically dope. Nobody sucks. This is a little bit of, yes sir.
Are there any dances that you see out there in Africa that you see over here in the same thing?
I'm a little bit mad right now because I wasn't able to, it's embarrassing, I dropped my phone. The one day I didn't have the case on it, so I can't get some of the videos out. We went to the Jubalika dance competition in Zimbabwe. It's basically like freestyle dance that you see here in the United States. But because it's indigenous people doing it in the homeland, it's always like a few steps beyond whatever we do here. So people there love hip hop. They study it, they know the history, they know the culture of the historical expressions and forms of b-boying and b-girling, and current freestyle dance as well. So dance is like super huge, not only because it's big in hip hop culture worldwide, but because it's such a part of African culture as well. So the competitive stuff is like crazy. If you want, you know, you can give me your contact, and when I get to it, I'll try to send you some links to some videos of African dance competitions. It's definitely a big part. This is a Rebel Sister Cypher. So there's like a whole night in Cape Town that's devoted to people, basically women getting down, poets and artists, and that's Sister Milia. I'm afraid that I'm running out of time, you guys, and this is also an open mic. So I don't want to.
Good.
Am I good? I keep just going. Thank you very much for like paying attention and respecting, you know. Yeah, I appreciate it, you guys. I'm glad you want to know. This is us at the radio station. Every city we go to, we participate in public airwaves. We get on the radio station and do something. Let me see if sister, if this is gonna work.
Can I just make a quick announcement right quick? Excuse me, the 4:30 buses will be here soon. If there's anybody who plans on leaving at 4:30 and needs a 4:30 bus ticket, please come see me. I'll be right outside the doors here. If anyone's staying until 5:30, we will be here for open mic till 5:30, and I'll have 5:30 bus tickets for those.
Thank you. This is Sister Zuki.
It'll be nice to see you.
Is there food in the back for real? This is not bad.
Grab some cookies. I'll send you a bunch of links actually.
Are you?
I said, do you want to put that stuff up while we got a little break here? What do you teach? Got a,
Go home. This is where I go. No. Pardon me, guys. Sorry. Oh my God, I was thinking that. Because I turned around. You want to say and I was like, why is she no really? And I started laughing.
getting up there and get some food.
I was like,
Yeah, no, it's good. Thank you so much.
and then she opened her Snapchat and I started laughing. Yeah. I know.
Is there anyone else that needs a 4:30
Sarah.
bus ticket? 4:30?
Sarah.
4:30 bus ticket.
I mean, it was like cool, but it was too long.
You ready for you to eat?
You got two right, you got one right there, that's two.
Can you just watch for some support? Not in the handicap parking lot. Not in the handicap lot. Oh my God.
Preferably the big ones are here.
Okay, spit.
About to leave? Bye, Sarah. See you later. I thought you said you were going to leave, bitch. Why are you mad?
Come here.
That's what makes everybody be feel. It's gonna feel weird for you.
Mr. Crenshaw, is there any beatboxers you meet over there?
You can read them. Man, you got it.
Wait, are you really?
Basically every
I'm not ready.
You're not ready? Where's Dante?
You just told me. Huh? Okay, you can read them. This is the one I'm gonna do.
Can I have everyone move into this classroom so we can focus on the background? We open it up and we have
Hey, Max, one más que some water.
Feel free to any more cookies.
Yeah, there's cookies. We are gonna do open mic.
Tyler left. Yeah, he has tennis.